are you? I hope all of you fine and safe. Dear student, in today's class, we are going to teach you 8th standard second language English. The lesson name is The Emperor and the New Class. So, in the previous class, already we have started this lesson and then finished the first scene. This is one of a play based on a folk tale. Play means drama, folk tale, ಜಾನಪದ ಕಥಾ ಹಂತವನ್ನು ಇದು ಒಳಗೊಂಡಿದೆ. So now already we read about the foolish emperor. So now we continue this lesson to the second scene. Today we learn second scenes of the drama. Okay, now I take a loud reading, dear student. Then I explain the glossary words taken from the paragraph. Okay, shall we start? Okay, start the lesson. Prose, the emperor's new class. Already we read first scene. Now we read second scenes. Page number 117. Scene second. Next day in the evening, a room in the palace. The two weavers are seen working on the looms, pretending to weave. They had put away in their bags all the fine silk, the gold thread, and the jewels which were given to them for making the new clothes. Chief advisor enters the room, speaking to himself. His Majesty has sent me here to find out how the weavers are getting on with their work. They seem to be working very hard, but where is the cloth and the looms? God, good heavens, I can't see anything on the looms. First weaver, oh, there you are, sir. We were expecting you. Step this way, if you please. Second weaver, pointing to the loom and pretending to handle the cloth they were supposed to be weaving. Don't you like the pattern, sir? The circles and the flowing lines are good, aren't they? Chief advisor, completely puzzled. The circles and the flowing line? Yes, they are very good. First weaver, and the colors? We hope the emperor will like the dark red and sky blue colors on the gold background. Chief advisor, more confused than before. Dark red, sky blue and the gold background? I must remember this. Yes, I am sure that His Majesty will like the colors very much. Second weaver, you may tell His Majesty how hard we have been working, but we need some more silk and gold thread to complete the work, and some more jewels to sew into His Majesty new clothes. But the weavers together, thank you, Your Excellency. Chief advisor, speaking to himself as he leaves the room, heaven help me. There was nothing on their looms, but the weavers had said, only wise men can see the clothes that we make. for same time laughing at the success of their trick. Second scene. Next day in the evening, a room in the palace. The two weavers are seen. The next day in the evening andre ಮಾರನೇ ದಿನ ಸಂಜೆ the room in the palace, ಆ ರೂಮಿನ ಒಳಗಡೆ the two weavers are seen working on the looms. The two weavers means the first weaver and then second weaver working on their looms means batte. Pretending to weave, they had put away in their bags all the fine silk provided to the chief advisor whatever they want, and then finest silk and then purest gold threads, and then gold thread and the jewels bangara abharana muttu ratna which were given to them for making the new clothes. They were want to the finest silk, purest gold thread and then several jewels ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Chief advisor entered the room speaking to himself, and the next day evening the chief advisor entered their rooms, and then what they were working, ಅವರು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ನೋಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ, and then speaking to himself, ಅವನಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಒಳಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. His Majesty has sent me here to find out how the weavers are getting on with their, ಅವರು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ನೋಡಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. They seem to be working very hard. The two weavers working there very hard. But where is the cloth and the looms? Where is the cloth? Where is the looms? ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಡುಕು? Good heavens, I can't see anything on the looms. Good heavens, ಓ ದೇವರೇ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ನೀನೇ ಕಾಪಾಡಬೇಕು. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಡುಕು? ಐ ಕಾಂಟ್ ಸಿ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್, ಅವನಿಗೆ ಏನೂ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಐ ಕಾಂಟ್ ಸಿ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ವ್ಯೂವರ್, ಓ ದೇರ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಸರ್. ಓ ಸರ್ ಬಂದ. ವಿ ವರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಯು, ನಾನು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, ನೀವು ಬರೋದನ್ನು ಕಾಯ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ ದೀಸ್ ವೇ, ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ ದೀಸ್ ವೇ, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಈ ಕಡೆ ಬನ್ನಿ, ಈ ಕಡೆ ಬನ್ನಿ, ಆ ಕಡೆ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಇದೆ, ಈ ಕಡೆ ಬನ್ನಿ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ವೀವರ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಟು ದ ಲೂಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಪ್ರಿಟೆಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಹ್ಯಾಂಡಲ್ ದ ಕ್ಲಾತ್, ದೇ ವೇರ್ ಸಪೋಸ್ಡ್ ಟು ಬಿ ವೀವಿಂಗ್. ಈಗ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ವೀವರ್ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾನೆ, ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾನೆ. ಡೋಂಟ್ ಯು ಲೈಕ್ ಪ್ಯಾಟರ್ನ್ ಸರ್? ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಈ ಪ್ಯಾಟರ್ನ್ ಇಷ್ಟ ಸರ್? ಇಷ್ಟ ಇದೆಯಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ? ದ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಫ್ಲೋವಿಂಗ್ ಲೈನ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಗುಡ್. ದ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ಸು ಫ್ಲೋವಿಂಗ್ ಲೈನ್ಸು ಆನಂದೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆಯಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ ಅಂತ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ದೇ ವೇರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಎನಿ ಕ್ಲಾತ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಎನಿ ಲೂಮ್ಸ್. ಚೀಫ್ ಅಡ್ವೈಸರ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ಲಿ ಫಜಾಲ್ಡ್. ಹಿ ವಾಸ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ಲಿ ಅಮೇಜ್ಡ್, ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ದೇ ವೇರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಎ ಲೂಮ್ಸ್, ದೇ ವರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಎ seen to any cloths and their looms. The circles and the flowing line, yes, they are very good. Circles and flowing lines tumba chennagide, very good. But the real fact is he was not seen any looms and then any cloths. First viewer, and the colors, we hope the emperor will like the dark red and sky blue. I hope the first viewer ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ, I hope the emperor to like the dark red and sky blue color. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ವಿ. and then and the gold background, ಆ ಒಂದು ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಕಲರ್ ಗೋಲ್ಡ್ ಕಲರ್ ಹಾಕಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಅವ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ. Chief advisor more confused. Chief advisor finally he was very confused because he was not seeing anything. Good pattern, circle, flowing lines, dark red and sky blue color, the golden background. Anything he was not see. Dark I must remember this. Yes, I am sure that His Majesty will like the colors very much. ಓಕೆ, ನನಗನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಈ ಕಲರ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. Second viewer, you may tell His Majesty how hard we have been working, but we need some more silk. ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾ ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟು ಹಾರ್ಡ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ. ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ಸಮ್ ಸಿಲ್ಕ್, ಮತ್ತೆ ರೇಷ್ಮೆ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಅಂಡ್ ಗೋಲ್ಡ್ ಥ್ರೆಡ್ ಟು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ದ ವರ್ಕ್. ಈ ವರ್ಕನ್ನು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ನಮಗೆ ಏನು ಬೇಕು? ಇನ್ನು ಗೋಲ್ಡ್ ಥ್ರೆಡ್ ಮತ್ತು ಸಿಲ್ಕ್ ಬೇಕು. And some more jewels to sieve into the majesty new class. And then I wanted some most jewels. And then final to this cloths to the wearing to the emperor. Both the weavers together, thank you, Your Excellency. ಅವರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಹೊಲಿದಿರುವಂತಹ ವಿನ್ಯಾಸಕ್ಕೆ ತುಂಬ ಎಕ್ಸಲೆನ್ಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಹೊಲಿದಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. Chief advisor speaking to himself. As he leaves the room, ಅವನು ರೂಮಿಂದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ. Heaven help me, ಓ ದೇವರೇ ಕಾಪಾಡಪ್ಪ. There was nothing on their looms, but the weavers had said there was nothing on their looms, nothing on their cloths. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಉಡುಪು ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. The two weavers said, only wise man can see able to see this, the magic cloths image. Those who cannot see them are fools or unfit for their jobs. Those who cannot see, ಯಾರು ನೋಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ, they were very foolish and then unfit for their jobs. ಅವರು ತಮ್ಮ ಕೆಲಸಕ್ಕೆ ಲಾಯಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ, ಅವರು ಬುದ್ಧಿವಂತರಲ್ಲ, ಅವರು ಜಾಣರಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅವರು ಫೈನಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. Am I fool? I am a fool. I am unfit for my job. ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಲಾಯಕ್ಕಿಲ್ವಾ? ಐ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮೈ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಅಸಿಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ನಾನೀಗ ನನ್ನ ಆಪ್ತ ಸಲಹಾಗಾರ ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಕಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕು, ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಅಸಿಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಟು ಸಿ ವಾಟ್ ರಿಯಲ್ ಈಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನಿಂಗ್ ಹಿಯರ್. ಮತ್ತು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಜ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದ ಚೀಫ್ ಅಡ್ವೈಸರ್ ಗೋಸ್, ದ ಟೂ ವೀವರ್ಸ್ ಡ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ರೌಂಡ್. ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದ ಚೀಫ್ ಅಡ್ವೈಸರ್ ಲೀವ್ ದ ರೂಮ್, then the two weavers dancing around the stage, sometime laughing at the success of the trick. ಅವರು ನಗ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವರ ಟ್ರಿಕ್, ನಾವು ಎಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಚಾಣಾಕ್ಷತನ ವಹಿಸಿದ್ವಿ, ಬುದ್ಧಿವಂತಿಕೆ ಅಂತೇಳಿ. ಸೊ ಮೈ ಡಿಯರ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್, ನಾವು ಈಗ ತುಂಬ ಬೋರ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ವೆರಿ ಬೋರ್. ವಿ ರೀಡ್ ಸಮ್, ವಿ ಸಿ ಸಮ್ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಕ್ಲಿಪ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದೇರ್ related to this, the emperor new class. Related, not related. The story is the emperors and the new class. Our YouTube videos you see and then enjoy, my dear student. Okay? Okay. I play some video clips. Okay, you see and then enjoy.
I'll be reading The Emperor's New Clothes by Hans Christian Andersen. Once upon a time, there was an emperor who was so very fond of new clothes that he spent all of his money on buying them. He didn't worry about his land or army or people or ruling his empire at all. He had a different suit for each hour of the day. One day, two tricksters appeared in the kingdom. They dressed and acted as they were trustworthy men and claimed to be bullets makers. They said that they knew how to weave clothing that had the most beautiful colors and patterns. But they said to anyone who would listen, our clothing is very different from anything else you know of. Our clothing is invisible to anyone who is either a simpleton or who is unfit to hold their office. Finally, they were brought to the emperor, who had heard rumors of their abilities. Loving new clothes as much as he did, he ordered his servants to bring them before him at once. When the men told the emperor about their clothing, he thought to himself, what fabulous clothes. If I wore a suit made of those fabrics, I could determine which of my men is unfit for their office, and I could tell who is wise and who is foolish. Now, said the emperor to the clothes makers, you must weave me a suit immediately. Then he gave the weavers a large bag of money so that they could begin begin their work immediately. He also told his servants to take the weavers to a large room in the palace so that he could check on them while they worked in his suit. Two weavers who were great tricksters and did not know how to weave at all set up the weaving looms and pretended to work very hard. Days passed, and the emperor wanted to know how much work had been done in his suit. But he did not want to visit the weavers himself because he knew that a simpleton or a person unfit for his job would not be able to see the fabric. The emperor did not want to know that he was such a person. So he decided to send someone else to find out how the weaving was going. He sent his old faithful minister, who knew to be very wise and very worthy of his job. The faithful old minister went to the room where the tricksters were working with all of their might at their empty looms. But when he entered the room, the old man was shocked and embarrassed because he could not see anything in the looms. They looked empty to him. The impostors asked him to come very close to the looms, and while pointing to the empty looms, asked the minister whether he liked the design and the colors. The poor old minister looked, but he could not discover anything in the looms, and for a very good reason. There was nothing there. What? He thought to himself. Is it possible that I'm a simpleton? I've never thought so. Never let anyone know it if I am, or what if I am unfit for my office? I don't know that either. I'll just pretend I can see the fabric. Then he listened very closely as the impostors named the different colors and described the pattern of the imaginary fabric. When he saw the emperor, he repeated what the impostors had said, and the emperor was very happy. The suit sounded wonderful. More time passed, and the emperor sent more and more officers of court to see how much longer it would take for the suit to be completed. Each one looked at the empty looms, and each was afraid that he was a simpleton or unfit for his job. And so each listened to the impostors' descriptions of the suit, and then repeated it to the emperor. Soon the whole empire was talking about the emperor's suit. They all knew what it meant if one could not see it. They were all very excited to find out who among them was wise or foolish. And now it was time for the emperor himself to see the suit, which had cost him a lot of money. He went to the weaver's room with a few of the officers of the court who had already seen his suit. When he looked at the empty looms, an officer asked him, "Isn't this suit absolutely magnificent?" "How can I not see the suit?" thought the emperor to himself. "Am I a simpleton? Or am I unfit to be the emperor? That would be horrible. Oh, I love what you've done with fabric. The suit is absolutely fabulous," said the emperor to the weavers. He too had decided to pretend to see the suit, so that no one would know that he was a simpleton or unfit to be emperor. The officers advised the emperor to wear the suit to the upcoming festival, which was to begin with a parade led by the emperor, and he agreed. The day of the parade, the emperor came to the weavers. One of the tricksters held his arms up as if he were carrying a jacket and said, "Your Majesty, here is your jacket. Please, try it on." The other pretended to be holding something as well and said, "Your Majesty, here are your trousers. Please, try them on." The emperor took off his silk suit, which was very regal, and tried to put on the invisible one. Finally, the emperor walked out of the palace and led the parade through the city. All the people looking on cried out, "Oh, how beautiful are the emperor's new clothes! What a magnificent suit he has!" No one would admit that they could not see the emperor's clothes, because no one wanted to be thought of as a simpleton or unfit for their job. "Oh, but the emperor has nothing on at all," said a little child. "Listen to the voice of an innocent child," exclaimed the child's father. What the child had said was whispered from one person to another. Finally, all the people cried out, "The emperor has nothing on at all!" The emperor was very upset, because he knew that the people were right, but he knew that the procession must go on until he could get back to his palace.
This is the story of an emperor who loved beautiful new clothes. His only interest in life was to dress in expensive new clothes So much so that he had a different dress for every hour of the day. He did not care about his soldiers, nor did he care about governing his people. He went to the theatre not to watch a performance, but to show off his new clothes. He went for a ride in his carriage, not to meet his people and solve their problems, but to display his new clothes. It was because of this peculiar habit of his that he'd become an object of joke amongst his people. Instead of saying, "The king's in court," which would have been true for any normal king, it was said of him, "The king's in his dressing room." The city which the emperor ruled was always humming with activity. Visitors used to come from far and wide just to get a glimpse of the emperor. One day, 2 swindlers arrived, pretending to be weavers. They informed the king that they could weave the most magnificent cloth imaginable in brilliant colors and patterns. Moreover, the fabric had a magical quality to it. It would be visible only to those who were not foolish and were fit for the post they were holding. The incompetent and stupid people wouldn't be able to view the fabric. The king was very impressed. "It would be wonderful to have clothes made from that fabric. This way I would be able to discover all those who were unfit for their posts. I'd be able to distinguish the wise men from the fools." Emperor immediately sanctioned a huge sum of money and ordered the weavers to start their work. The impostors set up their looms and started their work. They bought the finest of silk and the purest of gold, which they hid away in their bags, as they pretended to work on the empty looms late into the night. The emperor was curious. He wanted to know how far they had progressed. But he was a little uneasy. He remembered the peculiar quality of the fabric, that it wouldn't be visible to the foolish people. Not that he doubted himself, but just in case. When he could wait no longer, he decided to send his honest old minister to the weavers. "He'll be the best one to tell me how the material looks, for he's a sensible man, and no one is more worthy of his position than he," the king reasoned. So, the good old minister went to the room where the 2 impostors were working, and he got the shock of his life. He couldn't see a thing. The weavers invited him to take a closer look at the loom. They pointed out the intricate patterns and the magnificent colors. The minister got even more confused. He could not see a thing. "No one must come to know of this. I will never admit that I am unable to see the material." When the weavers pestered him to say something, he said, "Oh, it is magnificent. The very best. What a pattern. What colors. I'll be sure to tell the emperor how delighted I am with it." 2 more weeks went by. The king sent them more stock of silk and gold and silver thread. Then he sent other officials as well to observe the weavers' progress. They too were shocked as they could see nothing. There was not a single thread upon the loom, but they too pretended as if the fabric was coming out beautifully. The The imposters were clearly enjoying themselves. They applied for more money, and the king happily sanctioned it. One day, they announced that the fabric was complete. 2 other statesmen went to inspect it, and they too lied to the king. They advised him to have clothes made out of that fabric and then exhibit them in a grand parade. The swindler stayed up the entire night just before the procession was to take place. Everyone could see that they were in a great rush to finish the emperor's new clothes. They pretended to take the material from the loom. They cut in the air with large scissors. They sewed with needles without any thread. Finally, they announced before the cocks could crow, "Behold! The clothes are ready for His Royal Highness." Even the king had stayed up the entire night. He was just too excited to sleep. He came to the weaver's room with his most distinguished noblemen. The weavers held up the trousers, the coat, and the mantle for the emperor to see. "These are as light as a spider's web. You might feel that you don't have a thing on, but that is the good thing about them." Even though the king couldn't see a thing, he did not admit it. The weavers told him, "Sire, if your Royal Highness pleases, you may remove your present clothes so that we can dress you up in these magnificent new ones in front of this large mirror." The emperor undressed, and the swindlers pretended to dress him up piece by piece. They even fastened a train around his waist. The emperor preened and pranced, admiring himself in front of the mirror. "Oh, how beautiful they are! How well they fit!" He seemed to regard his outfit with the greatest "Oh, how beautiful they are! How well they fit!" He seemed to regard his outfit with the greatest interest. All the distinguished cavaliers present in the room showered praises on the emperor's new clothes. None of them wanted to admit that they could see nothing. Finally, the weavers announced that the king was ready for the grand parade. The canopy was waiting outside. The noblemen who were to carry his train bent down pretending to pick up his mantle. The emperor walked beneath the beautiful canopy in a grand procession. Everyone was out, watching. The streets were packed and all the windows were occupied. Everyone said, "Wow, what a magnificent outfit! What a perfect train! How beautifully they fit him!" No one wanted to appear stupid in the eyes of their neighbors. None of the emperor's earlier costumes had received such praise. "But he hasn't got anything on," a little child said aloud. His parents hushed him, but the crowd had caught on. Soon, word spread like wildfire, and everybody admitted, "Our emperor has nothing on." The emperor also realized that these people were speaking the truth. He said to himself, "Now that I have begun it, I must go on with the procession. I have no choice." So he held his head high and proceeded ahead, more proudly than ever, while his noblemen walked behind him carrying the invisible train.